When you were so young, what was it about the music industry that made you that made you absolutely addicted to it?
Well, I can honestly say it comes down to one band in Brisbane. When I was 14, someone dragged me along to see Turnpike play for the first time at Paddington Workers Club, which I think has been bulldozed now. And I got hooked on it. It was revelatory for me, discovering bands like Sonic Youth that same year, and then figuring out that bands in Brisbane were as good or better, and that maybe it was worth trying to do something here. Yeah, and then trying to go out and see more shows and realising there was just this massive gap as I saw it, at least as it was in like 2003, 2004. There was nothing all ages. The scene was pretty much dominated by a couple of types of music. And I sort of just got a taste for it, I suppose. And it's hard to let go of once that happens.
It's really, really beneficial to be completely transparent if you don't know what you're doing. That when you, let's say it's because you want, maybe it's you want to ask the band to come and play with your band or something like that, but you don't know the correct way to do it or something. Just be transparent about it. Say, I'm not too sure if I'm doing this the right way, but we want to book your band, blah blah blah. And usually people will help you along, and people in the industry aren't so scary and have been exactly where you are, so they usually know how to help you out with the process.
It would just be, for us, especially when we don't know what we're doing, is the willingness to make a mistake, like the acceptance that not knowing what we're doing doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. And we've made plenty of mistakes. I don't know if any of you were the 20 people that came to Lost and Found Weekend after Lost Weekend Festival fell over, but I don't want to call it a mistake, but it certainly wasn't financially beneficial to us. But it was a lot of fun. And you do a lot of things like that, and you learn what you're good at too, and what you're not good at real quick.
I came up through a completely non-structured environment, running a venue at 17 that was more or less illegal. And yeah, the way that you adapt to that is flail limbs wildly, freak out frequently. But the thing that I found most beneficial and that's nice about the indie scene especially is that people are willing to teach you. If you are willing to go to anyone at all and say, do you have any advice? I don't know what the hell I'm doing, even if it's in a room of 350 people where it's filled with smoke and you're afraid somebody's going to die, they will still take you aside and go, look, if you just do this and this, then maybe you can get through it a little better. Yeah, and I think that's one of the wonderful things about Brisbane especially, is that people will teach.
Oh, look, Brisbane had a sort of golden time, Powderfinger doing big things, other bands like that. I guess at the moment, what I think we're seeing is a bit of a renewal of the underground music scene in Brisbane, and all the people here on stage are helping create that, and most of you probably out there. I think it's a pretty exciting time. There seems to be groundswell of young people getting back into it again. Nights are starting to go really well. There's an interest in original bands and original music that I think died off a little, 3-4 years ago. So yeah, I think Brisbane's in good shape at the moment.
And I just want to add to that, I think that it's also the fact that the way that we share music has changed a lot, obviously. And so I don't so much think that Brisbane, in its own music culture, has all of a sudden got awesome bands coming out, because we've had quite good talented bands coming for quite a while. But I think it's the fact that finally places like Sydney and Melbourne now have avenues to actually sit up and listen to the stuff that we have, and therefore are now seeing Brisbane as a destination that they do need to come and tour to and that sort of thing. And I think that that's kind of the reason why Brisbane is kind of taken a little bit more seriously now with our music scene.
Well, I've been hearing resurgence of Brisbane underground music touted around since I started in 2004. And I'd love to see it happen, I really would, but I feel like we're going to keep running into the same problem if we're not careful, which is lots of low-level bands starting out, really amazing underground bands, which we've always had, and the upper echelon of Brisbane music, and then this massive gap in the middle, because everyone feels that the second they achieve any level of recognition.
I guess I'll lead off again.
Just shaking his head, so you go after him.
Time management, really important. Creative industries, I think, is notorious for people not being so organised. From my perspective, being an operator as well as trying to work with creatives, it can be a nightmare sometimes getting stuff organised. So yeah, time management is really important. I suck at it, but how good's the iPhone? The saviour. Diaries, calendars, folders, keeping all your email, correspondence, everything. Just having that knowledge base there so you can remember what the hell's going on at any given time, because you've probably got so many things on your plate. Staying efficient.
Yeah, being a one-man operator sucks. I've mostly done that. I wish I had better delegation skills, to be perfectly honest, because there is nothing harder than having no one else to turn to. And even having one person who will help you in one specific area is the best thing. It's just incredible.
What you need to do is, once you start realising that you are developing, that you already know where you're supposed to be going and what you're supposed to be doing without the person having to then explain it to you. I guess that's the point then, that you should be moving on from that place and trying to find another place to, I guess, volunteer or intern at. And also making sure that if you aren't getting payment or recognition at all, that you do get a really good reference ring out of it, and that you do get tickets to concerts and things like that.
It's much, much better to do something for free and help people than to do something and get ripped off on it, which has happened. The music industry notoriously has shady dealings as much as it has great dealings. Yeah, and I think there's a lot to be gained from helping people out. It's like you said, it's not just about what helps yourself, it's what helps other people. That's the development of community, and I think that's the single most important thing in an emerging arts market like Queensland.
Just to follow on from that, do you think that because so many people are willing to do things for free, that people just expect that from people, and then it just sort of perpetuates this whole no one gets paid for anything, but it just keeps rolling along?
I don't know if that's necessarily true. We've had a few people sort of help us out over the years. Some of that hasn't worked out, but I mean, we were recently forced to hire someone who was frustrating and made themselves invaluable to us. And it was great, but we would have never really gotten to that place if that person hadn't stuck around and kept bugging us and doing things better than we could do for ourselves.
I mean, if it hadn't been for that, I wouldn't have half the skill base that I currently do. Because when I was starting out, people would say, oh, you know the music industry, can you run a mixing desk? And I'd go, yeah, I definitely can run a mixing desk. And then I'd go away and try and teach myself in a day and a half so that I could run a show. And likewise, if people would come to you and say, oh, you're good at promotions, and I'd go, oh, yeah, I'm the best at promotions, and then try to figure out what a Facebook was. And